I don't know about you, but I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that vow-failure cycle now that you mention it. But I don't know about you, but I grew up around religion. And to be honest with you, it's quite a negative experience. And it kind of, the theme went something like this. You are not doing everything that you can and should do. And you need to get off your dime and on your stick and shake it up and make it happen. You need to be better and stop being bad and start being good and put more intensity into it. And so we would talk about things like doing your best. I remember when I was in Bible college, Jim Ryan came to town and we had a 10K road race in Ellendale, North Dakota. And I, in those days, was running a little bit. And so I thought, I'm going to, go get a t-shirt, So I had to run a race to get the t-shirt. Shows you how poor I was. And what it took to get clothed. I had to run 6 miles to get a t-shirt. So I go into this race and I thought, man, I am going to do my best. And we start taking off down this road, and I'm watching my time and trying to set my pace for my best time ever. And, I get to, mile 3 and, the endorphins are kicking in and I'm just feeling like, I'm gliding along and I'm just tearing up the road and get out there to mile 5 and we're closing. It's a 10K race. So, I got 1.2 left, get down to the last 7/10 of a mile. And I just decided I will now go totally anaerobic, and I am just pounding the pavement as hard as I can, doing everything. I get down to the last 200 yards, and I am just slamming the pavement. Everything that's in me, I'm beating it as hard as I can, running and flying as fast as I can. Finally, I cross the finish line. And the stars, man, they're swirling around my head, and I can barely stand, and I almost vomit, and I'm just like, and just like fighting it, and just, and I thought I did my best, but then maybe I thought maybe I didn't really. Maybe if I had just run a little bit harder, maybe if instead of nearly vomiting, I had actually vomited. Maybe if, when I vomited, I had choked on my vomit and died, I could truly say I had done my best. But anything short of dying, come on, dude, you're so pathetic. So I heard a lot of this do better, do your best sort of thing when I was growing up. We gotta do our very best for God. And I started to think, that's not a good sustainable plan. You really can't do your best every day, or you will choke on your vomit and die, which makes for a short day. So I was growing up and they would say, you got to do best. And so then I would say, okay, I am going to make a vow to do my best. And I would make this promise before God, I will do this thing. And you could pick one of thousands of things. I'm going to read my Bible through this year. I'm going to memorize 7 scriptures a week. I'm going to witness to 2 people a day. I'm going to do all of these things and I will do it. And man, you start off and you sit down, you start reading your Bible through and you're cruising along and you read Genesis. It's actually interesting for several chapters there. And then for me, the killer month was April. You get down to Job. I don't know about, that Job is April. And you're sitting there and you're going through Job and it's just like, just die, dude. Just die. You're just drawing this thing all out here, and it's just like, and there he says, oh, but man, it's so good in that last chapter. There's 2 good chapters in Job. The first one, the last one. The rest is filler, folks. I think, it needed an editor. I'm serious. I publish books. It needed an editor bad. And so I'd be sitting there and I'm working through Job in April and then I got the check boxes and I'm trying to check them off every day. And then I would miss a day. And I go, oh man, I got to get on this thing. I'd read 2 days the next day to catch up and, kind of redeem myself. It was a near-death experience, but I got through it. And then I missed 2 days. I don't know about you, but for me, that's nearly insurmountable. And I'm thinking, oh man, I got to catch up somehow because I'm not doing good. I promised I was going to read my Bible through. I was going to become a man of God, and I was going to be a very spiritual person. I was going to do this. And then I started to go into this total no skid. And I'd look at that thing and I'd go, man, I should be reading my Bible like I said I was in this June now, and I'm 6 weeks, I haven't read it, and I'm feeling like a complete bad person. And then this preacher would come and he'd start telling me what a ne'er-do-well I was. And I needed to get off my diamond on my stick and shake it up and make it happen and do my best. And I thought, well, I will do my best. Now, there was this, if you were to graph it, there's this period of euphoria. I will work from left to right. Very talented speaker. And so you start right here and you're doing bad, right? But then you make the vow. I will do it. I will stop doing the bad stuff and start doing the good stuff every day. And boy, it's as good as it gets right there. Right after that moment, it's just like, see, I really am an awesome Christian because I'm doing it. See, me up there, I'm doing it. And then you fulfill it the next day. And you know what you always feel an obligation to do once you fulfill that? Is you always feel the need to tell somebody that you did that. You know, and so you say something like, you know, I was reading my Bible this morning, and I saw this thing. It's just so profound. No, the whole point of that statement was to mention, I read my Bible this morning. Check me out. See, I'm up there. I'm doing good stuff. And then here, the euphoria is as high as it gets. But then you hit that skidder part, and then you kind of actually go down worse than you were when you started this thing. You feel badder than you did when you started, right? And so then you make a new vow. This preacher comes along, you say, man, I'm on it. I will do it. I'm not going to fail like I did last time. No way, baby. I am going all the way. And so you start into it again. Bam! And you soar up there, but you've got a little fear in your heart. You're a little bit concerned. I might not do it. I didn't last time. Oh man, I hope to God I can do it this time. So your euphoria is not quite as high. And finally, you start to sputter and miss and fail and down and go again. And you go through that, what's called a vow-failure cycle. And if you look at it like this, it's a vicious cycle. It's a cycle that gets worse and worse and worse and worse until one day you fold your arms and you say, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm just not going to do any of that stuff because I know the end thereof. I'll fail. I can't do it. And some people, they'll sit there and they'll look at it and they'll say, look at that guy. See his arms folded? What a jerk. He's so rebellious. Look at him. He's just rebelling against God. And really what's going on is he's just gotten honest. I can't do it. And you want to know what, guys? That's a bummer. That is not a fun place to be. And you know, if you go down to a bar in this town, you will find people that believe and agree with the Bible. And I'm not saying going to a bar is bad. I'm just saying that the guy who's like your classical messed up guy. And he's sitting there and he's just like, you know, sitting there and he's going, you know what? I agree with that. I just can't do it. I think it's true. I just can't live that way. There's lots and lots of people that are in that boat. And what has happened is we have told the world, hey, stop being bad, start being good, but we didn't give them the power to do it. And I remember growing up in church and I was told, produce fruit. You get on it and you produce some fruit. And so I would go, okay, I'll produce fruit. And no fruit was there. There was no fruit. So I learned a little trick. You go down to get a little piece of wood and you start whittling. And you whittle, till you have something that looks ever so apple-like. take a little red stain, shine it on there, get a little thread, it looks like a stem, and while no one's looking, tie it on. Got fruit. See? That's what GF actually stands for. Just kidding. So I'd hang that out there. See? I'm being good. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Acting like I'm supposed to be acting. It's pretty much an act. And then the world would come by and they'd see that apple and they go, oh, I'm so hungry. If I could just pluck that apple and eat it, it'd be awesome. And so with a trembling hand, they reach out and they grasp the apple. With a ravenous stomach, they open their mouth and crash their teeth into that thing. And they're stuck. Because it's way too high fiber. And they can't get their teeth out of the apple because it's not really an apple. It's a chunk of wood. And finally, they chip their tooth as they finally pull it loose. They spit out the remains of the high fiber apple. And they say to themselves, that was not refreshing. And I am never, ever going to eat of that again. You guys, that's kind of the story of religion right there. It's a dog ugly, unnourishing thing that hasn't been helping. You guys, let me give you a little clue about producing fruit. You don't produce fruit by your own determination. I was riding my motorcycle around the shores of Lake Chelan, beautiful sunny day. It was late summer. The trees were heavy laden with fruit, man. They were just totally loaded up. And there were these 2x4s stuck under the branches just to keep them from breaking off. And I was watching those trees as I'd ride by. And I thought, man, that's way too easy. Those guys are not working hard enough. Being a good old-fashioned evangelist that I was, I thought, I'm going to preach at those things. And so I yelled off my motorcycle, hey, you fruiters, get on it! Start producing! They completely ignored me. They just continued basking in the sun, working on their tan, totally chill. And I'm thinking, is that how fruit is produced? And I just want to say to you, yes, that's how fruit is produced. It's not by your determination. It's not by, as my mom used to say, making a muscle. It's simply about abiding in Him. And as the life of Christ flows into the trunk, it flows through the branch, and real fruit is born. It's not produced by me promising I'm going to do better and I'm not going to fail this time, because you will. But if you abide in Jesus, there's a miracle that occurs.